This is 9.3, the second part of the lesson. So if you have not watched this, the first part, go back and watch it, solving a system of equations, but it's multivariable equations. So this is part B. So here's a problem. It says find a quadratic equation that goes through these 3 points. And so what we're going to do, start off with what we do know. We know a quadratic equation is ax squared plus bx plus c. And we know that, so what we're going to do is start plugging in these points. So look at the first point right there. So we have, I'm going to plug in, this is your x, this is your y. So I'm going to plug in the x is -1. And the y is 3. Now, if I simplify that, that's really 1a minus b plus c equals 3. Now, if I look at the second problem, the second point, I'm going to use this point right here. So this is 1 equals a times x squared plus b times 1 plus c, and this equation becomes 1a plus 1b plus c equals 1. And if I plug in the third equation, I'm plugging in the third point, so I have 6 equals 2 squared plus b times 2 plus c. So this equation becomes 4a squared plus 2b plus c equals 6. So once I've done that, so notice I have a system of equations that I need to solve for. And I'm going to go through the process of solving that system of equations. So I'm going to erase all this stuff just because I need some space. All right, so I have a system of equations, has multivariables in it. And remember, I'm trying to get it in row echelon form. This is already a 1. This is already a 1. So I need to get this a 1, which that one is. But again, what I'm trying to get are these to be zeros, okay, those to cross out. So I want it to be stair-stepping 1s and those 3 spots to be zeros. So I'm going to label my equations. So I'm going to say this is E1, this is E2, this is E3. All right, my equation, just keep track of it. So I'm going to take equation 1 and equation 2, and I'm going to get rid of the a's. So I have a minus b plus c equals 3. Negative a, I'm going to multiply E2 by -1, so that's negative b, and that's negative c equals -1. Now, if I add those columns together, the a's cross out, but so do the c's. And notice I have negative 2b equals 2, which means b equals -1. So now I know what b equals. So this is, I'm going to call this equation 4. So right now, what do I have? Well, I have a minus b plus c equals 3. I have b equals -1. Remember, what I'm trying to do is row echelon. So I want this to be a 1, this to be a 1, and I need this to be a 1. All right, the C, that's what I need to get. All right, and then once I get that answer, I'm going to back substitute in and be able to solve those. Okay, so I already solved for B. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take. I need to cross out the A's again, and so I'm going to take. Let's take equation 1 again. So I'm going to take equation 1. I'm going to take equation 3. So if I take equation 1, that's a minus b plus c equals 12. And I'm going to take equation 3 for a, for some reason I have a square right there. Plus 2b plus c equals 6. All right, so if I'm trying to cross out the a's, what I want to do is I'm going to multiply equation 1 by -4. And so this becomes negative 4a plus 4b minus 4c equals negative 48. And I'm not touching this one. I'm going to add those two equations together. The a's cross out. So 6b plus negative 3c and negative 42. Now, I'm going to call this equation 4. Now, I also know that b equals negative 1. Remember my equation, I already have equation 4, so that's equation 5. All right, so equation 4 says b equals negative 1. So if I plug in b equals negative 1, again, b equals negative 1, so I'm going to plug that in right there. So 6 times negative 1 minus 3c equals negative 42. So this is going to give me negative 6 minus 3c equals negative 42. Or negative 3c equals negative 36, which means c equals 12. So now I know c equals 12. And remember, I'm trying to find my ABC. My ordered triple. So I know c equals 12, and I'm going to back substitute that in. All right, so I'm going to pause right quick because I happen to notice I made a math mistake. And again, I could just simply do the problem, but this is a good learning tool because sometimes you get to the answer and you start checking it and like, wait a minute, that doesn't work. And then you have to go back and retrace your steps. And it's a good thing I've labeled everything, so it's not just scrap math everywhere, or I did half of it on my calculator. I kept track of it. I found my simple mistake. And let me point out my mistake. Here I have 3, and I copied down 12. Because I knew I had to multiply by 4, so I kind of just did it in my head a little bit. So I ended up multiplying that by 4 twice. Okay, so this would be wrong, and basically everything I've done after that. So, you know, again, I could just redo the video, but I wanted to show you that it's a good idea, because I didn't mean to make a mistake, but I did make a mistake, and it's a good idea just to go back and label everything, make sure you understand where your mistake is, and it's easy to catch once you did that. So again, this is 3, and then negative 4 times 3, this would be negative 12. All right, so now I'm going to add everything together. The a's cross out. This would be 6b minus 3c equals negative 6. But again, b is negative 1, so that's going to be negative 6 minus 3c, or negative 3c equals 0, which means c equals 0. All right, so now I can back substitute that in. So if c equals 0, if I back substitute that, there is no c, so I don't have to worry about that. I'm just going to go back and substitute b and c in there. And I know b is negative 1, and I'm going to back substitute that in. I'm going to get a equals 2. So I found my ordered triple, a, b, and c. All right, let's look at another problem, another investing problem. We did this back in 9.1. So investing, if somebody invested $12,000 into 3 different funds, so we literally have 3 different funds. Let's just call them X, Y, and Z, and we have $12,000, and we're gonna, you know, whatever you don't know how much we're gonna put. We could just put 4,000 in each, make it equal. We could put 6,000 in one, and then 5,000 in one, and then 1,000 in the other. We don't know, but we're splitting this up some way into 3 different accounts. And we're going to literally, I know all 3 of them add up to be 12,000. So X plus Y plus Z equals 12,000. That's your first equation. Now, it says money market funds are earning 3%. So let's call this my money market. Okay, so I know this is 3%. Bonds, let's call this bonds, are earning 4%, so 0.04y. And mutual funds, so in F, let's call it Z is your mutual funds, that's earning 7%. And it says the total interest earned is $670. Three accounts. And then there's also a third equation I want you to notice. Notice we have X, Y, Z, so we need three equations. It says mutual funds have $4,000 more than the bonds. So mutual funds, that's Z, and the bonds is Y. So we need to know that the mutual funds is 4,000 more than the bonds. So to make them equal, what we're going to, if mutual funds is 4,000 more, we're going to take the bonds and we're going to add 4,000 to the bonds so that it will equal the mutual funds. Again, that's something you got to wrap your brain around because it says mutual funds have 4,000 more. Well, then if mutual funds have 4,000 more, then to make them equal, you need to add 4,000 to the bonds. All right, now we have three equations, and what we're going to do is solve all of these equations using the same process of do row echelon form. Now, one thing I would recommend doing, you don't have to, but if you wanted to get rid of the decimals, you could just take this equation right here. Basically move the decimals over 2 spots to be able to do that. So 3x plus 4y plus 7z equals 67,000. This equation I'm not going to touch. And this one I'm going to get in the same format. So I'm going to get the y minus z equals negative 4,000. So that way they're all set up the same way. Now, you don't have to do it that way. You could put negative y right here plus z equals positive 4,000. You know, it doesn't really make a difference how you do it, but it's because I did the exact same math, okay? So I have negative y. Let's just leave it that way so that way the numbers column is all positive. It's better to do that. So what we're going to do is do the row echelon form. We need this to be a 1, which it already is. We need the y's to be a 1. It's not. And we need to be the z's a 1. It is. But we need to get rid of, we need to get rid of this, and we need to get rid of that and that. Okay, so that's what we need to do. So let me back that up so it's not. All right. So we're going to use row echelon form, all the row operations to be able to solve for this. And there's multiple ways to do this, to be able to do this. So go back and look at the previous example, but you're going to have to start eliminating the x's. I would probably take equation 1 and equation 2 and get rid of the x's. And then you would have equation 1 and then your fourth equation. So again, I would label this E1, E2, E3, and then find your fourth equation. And eventually you're going to find your ordered triple. Your x, then your y, then your z. So here we have, we're going to end up with x is $2,000, y is $3,000, and then the z is $7,000. Again, that adds up to be the $12,000 that we initially, so we ended up putting 2,000 here into the mutual funds, the money market funds, and then the 3,000 into the bonds, and we put 7,000 into the mutual funds. Right? And again, you go through the same process of doing row echelon form, trying to get into row echelon form. So I'm skipping all those steps, but if you go back and look at the previous example, you're going to end up solving for those three equations. So that's how you solve. This is the second part of multivariable equations, and you need to go back and watch the first video as well.